What is going on, everyone? There is no denying how big yesterday's win was. No denying that going back to Philadelphia with a 1-1 tied series is way more important than being down 0-2. And I just wanted to talk a little bit more about it. And I feel like I didn't praise Jimmy Butler enough. Really, honestly, I didn't think I praised him enough in the post-game show because I was so pumped about the intensity of our defense. But Jimmy Butler was so special. This is why you sign a contract, a max contract with Jimmy Butler, okay? And there's a difference. You need to realize there's a difference between a Kawhi Leonard max contract, a Kevin Durant max contract, a LeBron James max contract, and then the second tier max contracts. But you need to do it or you lose it, and you can't replace that type of player and mentality. Even if you go grab two other guys or whatever the case may be with that money, there's a different type of mentality that Jimmy Butler has that not everyone can step in and do that type of role. The guy has balls. The guy has that fourth quarter takeover mentality. You need that type of guy. And there's so much more that he does in the locker room and with the culture and with the intensity of this team. He brings a different sort of vibe to the locker room and culture. You need guys like Jimmy Butler, and he was making big plays last night. In the fourth quarter, he matches the Pascal Siakam 3 with a 3 of his own after Joel Embiid's double-team hook shot pass over to the far side of the court. He got fouled. He made plays happen. Jimmy Butler was a reason why this team was so damn successful. I couldn't imagine where that team would have been last night without him. Defensively, it wasn't just Ben Simmons on Kawhi that was special. But since we obviously praise that and everyone's praising it as they should, let's talk about the stats for him. He was holding Kawhi to 8 of 16 and 0 of 6 from 3. Jimmy Butler held him to 1 of 4 from the field. But this is where I thought the X factors were defensively. Joel Embiid had a horrible night offensively until the last 2 plays. 6 turnovers, sloppy, he just looked horrible. But defensively, he was on Siakam. He made Siakam, not irrelevant, but he forced Siakam to play a way tougher game. Siakam shot 6 of 17 from the field when Joel Embiid was on him. The length was so much different. And same with Tobias and Marc Gasol. You would think that would be a matchup that Toronto would love to feast on. But when Marc Gasol was camped out by the three-point line and Tobias is defending him, well, that takes away the three and Gasol just ends up passing it. When Embiid would cover him, that's taking our big man out of the paint and drawing him out to the perimeter, which opened up the lane and the paint for the Raptors to succeed. Those matchups were so crucial, and Brett did a great job. Now, listen, Game 3, everything's going to be so much different. It's a damn chess match out there, and that's why it's beautiful. The playoffs are so beautiful. So, you take it for what it is. You know that the Raptors are going to counterpunch with another move, and we need to be ready for it. But as for Game 2, that was such a difference maker, what we did defensively. And did we crack something? Did we crack a code here on how to be so successful? Also, maybe even though we ripped this bench apart, we literally destroyed this bench, as it should be destroyed because it's not good, especially without Mike Scott. But we are outperforming their bench. Our bench is outperforming their bench. Is that going to be able to hold up all season long? I don't know. And listen, all the Raptors fans are saying, look what it took you to beat us. We had the worst shooting night in the world, and none of our players can make shots. And you're right. Your shooting, the Raptors shooting was very poor, and they missed open shots. But we also picked it the hell up defensively and forced you guys all game long to take tougher shots throughout the game. And that plays a factor in just all of it, and seeing the ball go through the rim and confidence with shooting. We forced you guys to play a tougher game offensively, which could have played a factor. You're right, though. You missed some open shots. The Raptors missed some open shots. But here's where I'll counter that. It doesn't matter what happened in Game 2 now. Right? Some things, yes, you take away. Matchups, if you can get those matchups again. But because you make your shots, or in this case, say you miss your shots in Game 2, how does that relate to Game 3? Does that mean you're automatically going to make all your shots in Game 3? See, it's the same thing with Joel Embiid argument, where Sixers fans say, well, look what we did without Joel Embiid. Think about what we can do with him next game, because Joel Embiid sucked in Game 2. You're right, but that means nothing. That means nothing. Each game is so unique in its own way. It doesn't matter that some things happen. Well, you missed your shots in game 2. Well, I mean, you could miss your shots in game 3 again. Who knows? The only thing that matters is the series is tied 1-1 heading back to Philadelphia, and that is a difference maker. So let's go back to Brett Brown. The way he handled the rotations and the minutes for these guys. Ben Simmons played 44 minutes. Jimmy Butler played 43. We know our bench is so limited. So he had to stretch out the starters. He had to. There's no other options. But he did a great job at it. Picking spots here and there to throw guys in. Using TV timeouts. Using his timeouts in the right spots. Brett Brown was literally almost perfect yesterday. Perfect. Now we also have, you have to counter this with, or just think about it. We have a couple days in between games now. We don't play till Thursday. Then we don't play till Sunday. And you're switching through cities. So these players and guys like Joel Embiid who are not healthy, sick, if you will, that gives them a couple more days to grab their stamina and get healthy and get rid of the flu symptoms or whatever the hell is going on with Joel Embiid. Just listen to his post-game. And speaking of post-game interviews, I love what Brett Brown was going for by saying that wasn't Jimmy Butler, that was James Butler. But just funny because his name is Jimmy Butler. But it's funny. It's funny what Brett Brown was going for there. All around though, it's special. And one thing I want to mention is I loved Ben Simmons, right? And I just gave credit to the other guys out there because it wasn't just Ben who played elite D. But we're watching our 22-year-old 6'10 point guard, Kawhi Leonard, for how many minutes? How hard? With how much intensity in a playoff game? And doing a pretty damn good job at it? That's awesome. That's long picture stuff. That's long-term picture thing. What we're watching Ben Simmons do. I've mentioned this throughout. The growth of Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid and some of these young players. That is unreal to gain this type of experience. And it's no easy task. And he did a good job of it. You can only contain him to so much, but he did a great job of it. He did. I know some fans are upset, some Sixers fans are upset with Ben Simmons and his lack of offense yesterday, which there were times where fast breaks, 3-on-1, and he's dumping it off to James Ennis 2 feet from him. There's times where he's kicking out to James Ennis for a 3 when J.J. Redick is right next to him, completely wide open for a 3 with his hands right in the breadbasket. Or that, I talked about this one, Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons underneath the basket, and they were giving it back and forth. No one wanted it in the paint, and he missed a reverse layup. There were times where Ben had to be better. But I just think with his mentality heading into this game with such a big task at hand and focusing so much on that task, well, I think that affected what he did offensively. His mindset was one thing. Kawhi. Make it tougher for Kawhi. And I could argue that he did that for quite some time in this ballgame. The fact that with 19, 20 turnovers, we allow them to score 24-something points off those turnovers and we still win, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy, but the Sixers get the job done. And they stood up. And they answered. And they made plays late. Give credit to the Raptors for the pushback, making it a one-point game. We answered. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't the sexiest win ever. It could have been a blowout. In the third quarter, we were missing some of our shots. How about that? In the third quarter, we were missing some of our shots. Not making it from deep, which allowed that Raptors run. But we answered down the stretch. We made plays happen down the stretch. We hit threes. We got to the line. Jimmy Butler and Joel Embiid from the line. How about that? Getting your points. Such a big difference maker. And in regards to Game 3, it's such a big difference maker that the series is 1-1. Was what I was going to say there. But heading into Game 3, I don't know what to expect. Nick Nurse is going to make adjustments. Brett Brown has to be ready for those adjustments. They got a couple days here to sit on it and watch film. That really is the beauty of the NBA playoffs. It is way more of a chess match than anything else. And I'm interested to see how Brett Brown elects to do it. Because some people aren't giving Brett Brown credit because it's, well, why was Game 1 that way? Why was Furkan Korkmaz out there? Why were we so bad in Game 1? He did make adjustments in Game 2, but what the hell was Game 1? I can't give him credit for being so poor in Game 1 that Game 2 was better. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that mindset because what Brett Brown did in Game 2 was awesome. But I see your point. Why was Furkan out there in Game 1? Why did that happen? Well, I'll tell you why. For some reason, when this team has their back against the wall, their intensity picks the hell up. It's like this team needs something. This team needs something to push them over the edge. Oh, we can't go down 0-2 heading back to Philly. New sense of urgency. I don't know why that is, but it is. I don't know why, but it is. Let me know your thoughts down below. Thanks for watching. See you guys next time.